Welcome to the KDrama Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
We're here to unpack your all-time favorite Korean dramas and chat about all the reasons that we find these shows so charming.
And so addictive. And we know you do too, so settle in with some ramen and a boba tea while we dive into the KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim. Oh, for the love. Yes.
Okay.
I just have to scroll down. So, episode 4, we confirm that ChaeOk's mother is the creature. Dun dun dun.
Mm-mm-mm.
Lady Maeda notified Dr. Ichiro that TaeSang and his team are actually inside of the hospital. During her visit, the creature learns how to operate the lift, which is really exciting, inside the facility, and starts to navigate the various floors of the hospital and leaves a very high body count in her wake. And not that kind.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Carnage.
Yes. And not the Marvel one. Never mind. Okay, so Myung, which is also a symbiote, by the way. Carnage?
I haven't...
Nothing? Venom?
I mean, I know what it is. I've just never watched it.
Yeah, Venom and Carnage
are like, yeah.
Yeah, they're symbiotes. Anyway. Okay, so Myungja has been moved to a separate holding area, and Lady Maeda insists that she be kept safe until her baby is born, which, why? We don't really know yet.
Mm-hmm.
TaeSang and ChaeOk split from Jungwon, and JunTaek is off on his own little side quest, and TaeSang and ChaeOk see the creature for the very first time.
Just a PSA. This is a very intense show. Very gory.
Yes.
If it is not something that you remotely enjoy, 1, I would not recommend watching, and 2, go and listen to season 1 of the KDrama Show and listen to What's Wrong with Secretary Kim.
Yes, this episode in particular does involve some discussion about SA, so if that's something that you want to avoid, then go listen to something else, and we'll see you back next time.
Yes. All right, so we are in episode 5.
Desperation, between denial and truth.
So we start this episode, and it is 2 vantage points of 2 different men, both saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So one has clearly told the other, this is the plan, and this person it's JunTaek. He is relaying the plan of, like, this is what we're going to do. And it is a plan to, there is an event going on.
It's a fundraiser.
Yeah, and it's all most of the high-ranking officials, the leaders, are going to be attending this event. And so what they're trying to do is take them all out.
Well, it's a propaganda event, and it's meant to deploy extra Chosun recruits following this bombing that had taken place in Tokyo, which we heard about in episode 1 from the newspaper boy. And yep, like you said, there's going to be a lot of prominent military and political leaders there, including Commissioner Ishikawa. And this is the point where we learn that JunTaek's father is actually loyal to the Japanese.
Yeah.
Like, he is supporting their occupation of Korea.
Right. He is... The only reason that JunTaek knows is because his dad is going, okay, this is what we're going to help them do.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, his son is turning around and he's leading the rebel cause and going, yeah, we're going to take these people out. And there is one man who he knows where the dynamite is.
Lee In-hyuk.
In-hyuk. Yep, he's the only one who is allowed to know this information, because you don't want a lot of people to know this information anyway.
Compartmentalize, yeah.
Right. Because, if only one person knows, everybody else, if they ask, hey, do you know where anything is?
Plausible deniability.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Which, I mean, maybe 2 people should know.
I feel like 2 is...
And they should always be in different places. It's like the vice president and the president are never at the same events.
Right. They should never be.
Yeah,
it's dangerous.
Exactly.
And so we cut to the underground newspaper being raided.
Back in the first episode.
And it's all of the men that they are either destroying stuff, they're arresting, the people who are creating these newspapers. And he has, In-hyuk has been taken, and he is the one who knows where the dynamite is, and he's been taken into a prison, but not any prison. He is in Onseong Hospital. And so this is the biggest reason that JunTaek has come into the hospital is he needs to know where that dynamite is. Because,
probably the only reason.
Oh, yeah. Because otherwise they cannot pull this
attack.
Destruction.
Yeah.
An attack off. And so he needs to know. And so he is making his way through. He's found the prison cells. And a woman stops him and is like, can you get me out? Like, I need to get home. I need to feed my kids. And he's like, I really don't have time for you. Basically. He's like, I have something more important going on.
The little smile he gives her at the end, like the polite, like, I'm sorry, I don't have time. Like, as if they were in the street and she was asking him for a favor to help her, lift something out of a barrel instead of,
hey, I'm fighting for my life here. I don't want to die.
I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old at home that are starving because I haven't been home in days.
Right.
And just the smug little, sorry, I don't have time for you.
Yeah, we really don't like him right now.
It's giving me Queen Om vibes. Just kidding.
Yeah, but Queen Om knows he's insufferable.
Does he? Just kidding.
Fair. So he finds Lee In-hyuk and he's like, okay, I need you to tell me where the dynamite is. Like, the event is in 10 days. This is our last chance. Like, I need you to tell me this. And he's like, you need to get me out of here. Like, we need to get out so we can all, like, we are part of this together. Like, that's why we're comrades. And he's like, I need you to tell me where it's at. And he's like, I don't really have time to get you out. I'll come back later. And In-hyuk's just like, fine, then I'm not telling you where it's at. You get me out of here, I'll give you the information. Otherwise, I frankly don't care.
I had super mixed feelings about this exchange.
And I did too.
Because on the one hand, these guys have already devoted their lives for the sake of the rebellion and for the sake of their nation to be recovered. But on the other hand, it's a little bit cold to just walk away from these men that you have agreed to, like,
die with,
protect. Yeah. And you've recruited them into your organization and you're supposed to, like, oversee this, and you're just like, I'm using you, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think they knew that was sort of his angle, so they took a similar stance.
Which makes them just as...
They're all just kind of Weasley in this moment.
Yeah, it's a total ego moment of, like...
Yeah.
Well, you know what? My pride's better than, like, more important than this cause that we say we're supposed to be fighting for.
Well, they fear for their own lives more than they... Because they're like, this is not an ordinary prison. This is...
Right.
This is a laboratory. This is horrifying.
Well, and it's not that JunTaek doesn't know that. He saw the room.
Yeah.
He's been told of some of this.
But he's also not the one sitting, like a sitting duck in a cage.
Right.
So it's not really his priority at this moment.
But just the fact of just, like, I'm not going to get you out.
Yeah.
Fine, well, then I'm not going to tell you. Like, what, are we 4 years old fighting over a toy?
Well, it ends up being all for naught anyway, because it gets caught.
And, like, part of me feels bad because you're like, you're now stuck in this horrible position.
That sucks. But also, you all just sat there shooting the breeze for the last 5 minutes. So.
Instead of, like, I'll try to maybe undo the lock, but as I'm trying to do this, I need you to tell me. And then if I can't, I'll leave the tools with you so you can maybe try and get out.
Yeah.
And...
yeah, it was...
oh, my goodness.
All of JunTaek's plot points are starting to irritate me the more we talk about them.
Yeah, I'm not loving him right now. But that is how you know that actor is very, very good, is because you just want to
I love that actor.
Him so hard.
He's so good.
So we cut to where we left off in episode 4. And the creature is standing in front of TaeSang, and he's having that crap moment.
Do you even have time to think, oh crap, in that moment? Do you even formulate a thought?
But it was very slow, the whole process of this creature walking to him. So there has to be, I don't know if any thoughts would be in my head other than like, okay,
bye, cruel world.
Just let it end. And she begins to just attack. Her little tendrils are flying, and he is hiding behind one of the pillars, or if he made it behind a wall. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, ChaeOk has slid in. I think didn't she throw like one of her knives, and she grabs a rifle and she begins shooting. We know shooting doesn't really do anything to this creature because she can just push all of the bullets out. Mm-hmm. Granted, they don't know this. We also know who she is. And so then we know in the future there's going to be a moment of her going, what did I just do? You know, when she finds out. Because you know she's going to at some point. We just don't know when. But as she's shooting this creature, she saves TaeSang, and she's trying to rack it back again, and the gun jams. And TaeSang has come to his senses enough at this point that he grabs ChaeOk, and he's like pulling her through the halls, and they are just booking it. Like, we have to find a safe place to be now.
I thought it was interesting, and I'm just now thinking of this, hearing you describe this whole interaction, just that the moments that they freeze. So, like, TaeSang freezes when he can't get away. ChaeOk freezes when she can't fight anymore. Yes. And then TaeSang steps in, and you know what I mean? Like, their strengths are playing to each other's advantage, to where ChaeOk probably would have stayed behind and tried to fight, but then TaeSang was like, nah, we outie. But while he was cornered and he didn't fight, she stepped in and saved his life because...
That's what she does.
Yeah, exactly. So they're keeping each other alive, apparently.
They're very good at it, too.
It was a good pairing.
Very good pairing. And while all this is going on, though, Jung-won hears the gunshots and is like, oh, crap, that's the direction that my child is supposed to be.
Right.
And so he runs, and he runs to where they used to be. So he sees... like the dead body that has been thrown, the fact that like the pillars have been crashed a little bit, that there's bullets all over the floor, and it's just kind of like...
Well, and he sees ChaeOk's knife.
Yeah.
Sitting on the ground too, and he's like, oh boy.
Well, this isn't good.
All signs point to death.
Death. Ugh. Terrifying.
Well, as TaeSang and ChaeOk are running down the hallway away from the creature... There's this whole scene is in slow motion as she's galloping after them, just almost like a horse or a rhino or something. I mean, she's hunting them.
Speed. Yeah, predator style.
And they are, it's just the looks on their faces of run faster than you've ever run before, and do not look behind you, just get away.
Go.
Yeah, it was a very cool shot. I liked, I just always wonder, like, in production, what was running behind them. You know what I mean? And for the shot to have the look that it does, for them to be able to see something, or if they even had anything that they were looking at.
Right.
But they sold it so well. Like, that was a look of terror.
Oh, it made me want to run too, and I hate running.
You know, it started to get my fight or flight going a little bit, which, if you know me, I actually freeze.
I would probably be more of the fight.
Well, you could just, if we ever get into a situation like this...
I need to start learning how to throw knives.
You just need to learn how to run away, because I'll freeze and stay there and die, and you can survive.
Or I'll just grab your hand and pull you with me.
Be dead weight at that point.
Anyway, moving on from how we would survive.
Well, they managed to find a utility room with a steel door to hide behind. Mm-hmm. But the creature is smashing it in behind them. And this is actually the scene from the ad on Netflix that, like, compelled me to watch the show.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This was the little, like, blurb that they, when you are
the preview
scrolling, and, they give you the 30 seconds or whatever. This was that scene. So, it was kind of, there's fun fact.
Moment. A moment for you. Well, and it's almost like this door is barely keeping this creature out.
Well, not almost. It is definitely barely keeping the creature out.
Well, and the reason I say that is because Jung-won has managed to catch up to them and has seen the creature from behind and is just like, okay, well, we need to solve this problem. And he pulls out a bottle, and I'm assuming that it's an alcohol of some kind. Don't really know what liquid it is, but he dumps gunpowder in it. So that's why I'm thinking alcohol.
I was torn between that and it just being a straight, like, kerosene, because he knew what situation he's walking into. He might have loaded up on explosives. Because
that is the line of work that they deal with, so that wouldn't be a completely unusual item, I guess, to be carrying around. So, yeah, he dumps alcohol or kerosene or something and gunpowder and, like, almost makes, like, a little trail.
Back around the corner where he's hiding.
And then he comes around and begins to shoot the creature himself, distracting it enough, and he runs away and keeps shooting, you know, trying to keep her engaged, and then he ends up shooting the gunpowder and creates this whole firewall, basically. Yeah. And as this creature is real pissed at this moment, like, she's enraged, one of her tendrils comes out and gets him right in the arm. But then the fire at this point has gotten too much for her that
I think he throws another flask into the fire.
Yeah, to make it explode, and she's screaming. Like, she's angry.
This is where we learn, though.
Hurt.
She's susceptible to fire, because otherwise she would have just walked right through it. And when the flame kind of ignited, it actually caught her on fire. And that's part of her shrieking, is that she's in pain. And so that's important information for them to know.
Oh, yeah.
How to keep it at bay.
And we don't know if, the Japanese have figured that out.
We hope not.
Yeah, but kind of at the same time, like, you don't want this creature out and just...
The enemy of my enemy?
I don't know. It's horrible.
It's pretty satisfying knowing that they're all so preoccupied with trying to get this creature that they're no longer disemboweling people in the basement.
Yes. She's doing it to them instead.
Oh, how the turntables have tided.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So we're in the boiler room where TaeSang and ChaeOk, have taken refuge. And they're like, they pull out the map and they're like, okay, this is where we are. This is where we need to go now. And as they, turn to take a step, this group of soldiers walks up. And ChaeOk, of course, pulls out her knife and is just like, I'll go down. I'll fight to the death.
And that was probably an agreement that she and her father had, was not to be taken alive. Because
you don't know what's going to happen.
Especially as a woman in this time. It would not be kindness.
No, it would be very
or
horrible.
Dignity, yeah.
And the main soldier, Sergeant Haneda, is yelling at her to put her knife down. And TaeSang is just like, I think you should probably just put the knife down. This is probably just a good idea. And she's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And he goes, no, I need you to put the knife down. He's like, I'm good in bad situations, but I'm even better in worse situations. Because he knows how to deal with people. He's very, very good at, communicating with people and kind of just getting them to do what he wants. So, yeah, he would be he's the person you want in charge.
He's a manipulator.
Yeah, right now he's the person you want taking control of having to communicate. And so she...
she says, not only are you quick to compromise, but quick to give up. And he goes, call it quick judgment. And he kind of chuckles a little bit. And she goes, I cannot believe you're laughing. And I was like, honestly, that would be me. I laugh at the most inopportune moments.
What seems like an inappropriate time, I don't know what else to do.
I'm probably going to laugh out of sheer pressure of the moment. And he goes, at least we escaped the creature. And then she says, I'm not sure which creature is worse, I wonder. Or I wonder which creature is worse. And
she's
then
not wrong.
TaeSang finally, puts his hand on top of hers and forces her to, drop the blade. Which we then see as they're being escorted away. Youngwon actually goes over and conceals it in his sleeve. So that was the redeeming moment of this, because you're thinking as the audience, like, they're not getting out of this.
They're gonna die.
Yeah, but then you see Youngwon and you're like, okay, there's a contingency happening here.
There's potential for survival.
Yeah.
We cut to Kato walking into the room where the creature had broken into, where, like, usually they're standing above looking down at her, and he is just seeing the mass destruction that she has left. Every single man is dead and, like, ripped apart, and it is very, very gory, very, very intense. And his biggest concern is, how has she learned to work the elevator? And it's definitely a fascination. Yeah, he's like, I wonder how, like, what's next? What's her next move, almost? Like, yeah. He's excited. You can see it. Like, he's getting excited about the fact that she's evolving in ways that he
didn't anticipate.
Well, and I don't know what he was anticipating for her quote-unquote evolution of, like, what direction she was going to go, how she was going to respond to things, other than he just likes that she tears people apart.
Yeah, I think it excites him that he doesn't know. But Ichiro is a little bit less composed about this whole topic.
He's not happy.
Busy threatening Soma about whether or not he's going to do something about this.
Especially because he's supposed to, like, be in charge of avoidable issues.
Yeah, exactly. But JunTaek's capture kind of interrupts this scolding. And JunTaek actually admits to being a rebel to Dr. Ichiro, and says, just don't tell my father about this. And that's when Dr. Ichiro, I think, slaps him and just says, you think your father has any jurisdiction here?
Right.
Like, you're way in over your head, buddy.
You don't know what you're...
And that's JunTaek's composure kind of wavers a bit in this moment where he's like, oh, I thought Daddy's money meant something.
Well, this is not
This is bad.
This is a really not good thing.
Yeah. JunTaek is then escorted back to the laboratory where they saw all of the heads and the body parts in jars, to be taught a hard lesson, but, quote, not hard enough to kill him. He will be held essentially for ransom in order to fund all of the operations that are happening here, because apparently they have a cash flow issue at the moment, especially with the hospital being shut down to the public. But in the lab where those children were being held earlier, JunTaek is bound to the cell door on his knees with his hands, like, through.
Right, in a very uncomfortable position. You're not getting up from that.
No.
You're stuck.
And you're like, all right, cool, what's next? It's a bit ominous.
Do we want to know what's next?
Probably
that
not.
Sounds horrible.
I'm very sensitive. Anyway.
Soma, while this is going on, he was the commander that had stopped Sachimoto, and who Ichiro had just been chewing out. He gets informed that there have been 2 intruders that have been caught, and it is TaeSang and ChaeOk. And so he comes up and they're like, they have, like, the bamboo or, like, just, like, these hats that cover their whole faces so that they can't see where they're at. And when they get lifted, the prisoners around them start whispering, oh, that's Master Chang. He's from, House of Golden Treasure. And so, like, Soma knows that name. He maybe didn't necessarily know the face, but he knows that name. And so he points to TaeSang and he's like, you're coming with me. And so TaeSang and ChaeOk get separated, and TaeSang is starting to panic because he's like, no, like, we can't be separate. Like, you can't take me away from her. And he keeps yelling back to her, I will be back for you.
And he promises.
Like, I promise to come back. And we know that he's going to keep that promise because there's way too much that's gone on, even in the past 20 minutes, for them to not try to watch out for the other person.
Yeah.
And so he gets dragged away. And...
Well, and is it
Haneda?
Haneda, who says, "Oh, is this your woman?"
Mm-hmm. And
he pins her up against the wall and is like essentially taunting TaeSang, "Try something, see what happens."
Right.
And it's an ugly scene, and it just devolves from there.
Haneda sucks. I'm just gonna say that now. He is horrible.
He's one of those people that probably takes pleasure in what they do.
Oh, he is a full sociopath.
He and
narcissist.
Dr. Ichiro are kind of cut of the same cloth in that manner. But really, for ChaeOk, our only hope for her in this situation is that one of the guards assigned to her detail is Youngkwan.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, she's not dead yet.
He has her knife.
There's still a chance. So you're saying there's a chance.
That Dumb and Dumber can get brought into a K-drama.
So Kato is in his office journaling, just kind of jotting down some of his discoveries. He's notating, that the creature has been missing for about an hour now, which he's weirdly calm about, considering he's sitting alone in his office.
You're journaling in the middle of chaos, bro.
Literal. Isn't that the name? No, this one's Desperation.
But that would not be my first thought. Is let me sit down and write a dear diary.
No, it just goes to show how detached from the situation he truly is.
Oh yeah.
In terms of the life lost and all of this, it's all just collateral in his mind. So as he's looking at the Najin on his desk, or in their test tubes on his desk, he just kind of wonders out loud, I wonder what she's looking for, or I wonder what she's seeking.
What is she learning?
Well,
There's
he's
another
just
one too.
Well, yeah, the one that stuck with me was, what is she looking for? Which honestly, yeah. I mean, she could have broken out and been gone and had her way with the town
in no time.
Exactly. But she's just chilling inside the hospital. So I don't know. Good question.
So scary. At this point, Kato gets informed as well that there have been intruders caught. So chain of command, kind of. People are now getting informed of hey, we have found people who've broken in.
Right.
But Officer Soma has taken TaeSang and he's like, I want something from you. I know who you are. And he goes, what you don't know is that I saved your life. And we get a flashback to when he was searching the janitor's cart, when he had stopped Sachimoto. Mm-hmm. And he happened to look up, and in the reflection of the window in the door, he saw TaeSang and ChaeOk. And was just like, I saved your life, so now you owe me.
Big.
Massive. And he's like, you know what? My family and I, we really like living here. We want a place to stay. My wife wants to open up a shop. I want you to create a life for us. So when all of this is said and done, I get to stay put. And I want you to figure it out. And TaeSang's like, okay, well then, you have to do something for me. You want this to happen? I need to know. I need information now. Mm-hmm. And then we cut to ChaeOk. And she has been thrown into a cell.
It's the same cell where we saw the creature even emerge from.
Right. And
in episode 1.
Sergeant Haneda is attempting his techniques and tactics of intimidation, threats, and violence.
He's basically beating the crap out of her.
He is kicking her, punching her. He is.
Initially, he goes to. Well, no, he goes to question her, and she responds in Korean, and he says, "You don't speak an illegal language here," and she says something to the effect of, she scoffs at the fact that he's nitpicking her speaking Korean as illegal, but then he allows the inhumanities to happen to these people in this prison.
Right.
And that's when he hits her.
He loses it. And he's a lunatic. He's crazy. And as he's beating her, she has defiance in her eyes as well. Mm-hmm. And she's just because he's demanding respect. And she goes, how about you respect me first? in order to get anything. And he again
it's not even that so much as she's just taunting him because she knows that her will outlast his every single time.
Right.
Because this guy
he's just been given power
tripping and knows that she has something he needs. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I go ahead and try, but you are an emotional basket case, and I have been around the block a few times, so
you don't even know what I've gone through. Well, also, if you do anything too much to me, why would I give you information?
Yeah.
And yeah, again, you don't know me.
Well, she walked into this. She walks into every single one of these missions thinking, I may not come back, so why is this any different?
Right. So he's beating her and he's kicking her and saying, you need to answer me. And she looks at him and she goes, how about you just drop dead? I mean, you're right, girl. You're right. And so then Haneda yells for somebody to come hold her up. And so two of his men come up and they're holding her underneath the arms. And he takes his sword and he cuts her bonds. And then one by one with his sword cuts off her buttons to the outer vest that she's wearing. And he's just like, there's only one way to deal with people like you. Mm-hmm. And like rips her shirt. And she goes, you may be able to violate me by force, but that doesn't give you any power at all. You still don't know that yet. And he screams, I'm gonna kill you. And
he raises his sword at her.
He's like, you're gonna die. And Kato walks in and is like, that is enough. You will step back. Like, get a hold of yourself, man. Almost.
And Haneda's like, I disagree. I think that, she's gonna give us what she knows.
I need to teach her a lesson. He's like, clearly you've already lost.
Yeah. Stand down.
He just tells him, isn't it obvious she isn't intimidated by you? Mm-hmm.
He is an intellectual among barbarians, especially in his mind. But, I mean,
in this moment, absolutely,
in truth, he kind of is, because everything that he is doing is to further science, even if it's stupid and sadistic.
Failing.
But truly, that's his motivation, is to further science, to further his
the
research
of whatever it is.
Of humankind. And everyone else there is there because they're a little bit sociopathic. Mm-hmm. So, truly he is an intellectual among barbarians. But anyway, he and ChaeOk can go the rounds.
Yeah, and it would actually be something that's like they're both actually doing something rather than...
Right. They know the song and dance, so...
Yeah, it just... So yeah, that is a very hard scene. Like, to watch.
It made me uncomfortable. I was
a little scared of how far they were going to take it.
Yeah, I also wasn't sure, just because of the nature of, like, the gore that happens in the rest of the show. I was a little concerned that maybe they were going to actually go there. But I appreciated the fact that they alluded to the fact that these things were happening to other women.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But they didn't have to make it explicit.
Right, or show any...
graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did the job.
Very well, because it was very...
I had my finger on the fast forward, like, I can't do this anymore.
I don't want to do it. Oh, okay.
So we're back in the outside world, which is kind of interesting. An interesting shift. We see Mr. Gu and Nawal kind of discussing whether or not things are going to resolve or if they're just all kind of screwed. Who's the other people we see before JunTaek's father? There's one more.
We see Lady Maeda and Ishikawa eating, and they both...
sharing a meal.
Well, and they both are like... She goes, well, you were out late last night. And he goes, so were you. Like, so he knows that something is going on. He has no idea what it is, but they both are...
They're playing that whole cat and mouse thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting scene to just be like, okay, Ishikawa is not as stupid as Lady Maeda thinks he is.
Yeah.
She clearly has no regard for him. And he's really not as dumb as...
Yeah, this was somehow some form of a marriage of convenience.
Right.
There's no affection there, which makes sense why he has a lover.
Yeah.
But apparently she's a very jealous, indifferent wife.
She's a complex.
She was... Makes me wonder if she actually loved him, but
at one point, yeah.
never loved her back.
Maybe.
I don't know. That's me speculating.
Because there is almost like a jealousy when she...
Oh, yeah, 100%. It
says you didn't come home last night. I mean, there was jealousy, the fact that
although
Myeonja's
it could
disappeared.
even be the fact that she's just a woman of power that is used to being desired. And so for him to be like, you're not my cup of tea. You're not my cup of big jaw.
Right.
Teacups. I don't know. Anyway, maybe that just didn't settle well with her, and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and it's also interesting because of the last episode with her telling Ichiro about
TaeSang?
No, about Myeonja, of like, you need to keep her in the baby safe, of maybe she feels like maybe she can't conceive almost.
Oh.
And that's why her husband has found someone else.
Good point.
And because she's very concerned about the child. She could care less about Myeonja.
But she could use the child as...
Yeah, as leverage.
Or as her own.
So, I mean, that's one of my...
Yeah.
Speculations that...
Good thinking. Good thinking there, little Ashley the sleuth.
Thanks. I need to take some lessons from Han So-yi. She can teach me how to do actions, anything. And I want her hair.
But we are in the outside world. JunTaek's father goes before Dr. Ichiro to plead for his son's life, which is what they were hoping for.
Right.
So JunTaek is still bound to the cell door.
Well, and this is when Master Kwon, JunTaek's father, learns that he's a rebel.
Right.
Because Ichiro's like, your son has... Because he's like, I'm so sorry my son has made a mess. And he goes, your son has made more than a mess. Mm-hmm. Because he's a rebel. He's
about to undo your entire empire if you don't get this under control.
And Master Kwon is just like, what? Like, he is completely... He's JungShook. Like, he has no idea.
Well, clearly, otherwise he wouldn't have been divulging all of these meeting plans to him.
And so he is horrified. And then that's when we cut to...
Yeah, JunTaek. He's still bound to the cell door, except for now he has this really bright light shining in his eyes. Oof. And a mystery serum is injected into his arm. We don't know the exact nature of what is in this serum, but we do, as time passes, we kind of see that it might be causing him some level of discomfort.
It's not good, whatever it is.
Yeah. They never really tell us what it is.
You can do a lot of speculating, especially the farther along we get into this episode and next episode.
Right.
But we don't know for sure.
We don't know for sure, which is terrifying in this hospital. But as it apparently takes effect, he is then instructed to name his fellow intruders and the purpose of their intrusion. Mm-hmm. And he has exactly 1 hour before he winds up on the dissection table. And JunTaek, after, his aggressors have left the room, he looks over and can clearly see Mr. O's brother has been dissected in this very lab, which causes him to vomit. Mm-hmm. And this inspires a flashback to him also vomiting.
Except we were drunk at this time.
We were drunk at this point.
Different type.
Yes. But he's had a night out on the town, probably some fancy fundraiser. There's a lot of, 3-piece coats that were bobbing around. And he's joined by TaeSang. We learn of their long-lasting bond and how TaeSang actually protected JunTaek from criticism shortly after his father had accepted the authority of the Japanese occupation, just really in order to protect his wealth. So he said the same people that were coming to us begging for our help would turn around and criticize us behind our backs. But TaeSang actually would get into fistfights with these people if he heard them speaking in this way.
Yeah.
Right. So... JunTaek actually admits that he's ashamed of his father's alliance, but he's grateful for TaeSang's unwavering loyalty as a friend. And at this point, in the memory, it's actually been about 10 years, apparently, since JunTaek has been pleading with TaeSang to join the Patriotic Society. So they have a lot of history.
Yeah, they've been friends for a very, very long time.
Yep.
And maybe not like, let's hang out every day.
Let's not start a podcast together.
Yeah, but there's a history there of like, no, that person has my back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
Because they are real. There's also a really cute moment in there when he's trying to convince TaeSang to join, and he's like trying to hug him, and he's like,
well, he says,
"Get off me, I don't want my new suit to smell like alcohol."
Well, then right before the memory ends, he says, "Let's burn for our country and go out like a passionate flame, okay?" And then TaeSang just shoves him off, and he goes flying out of frame. It was good. I like it. It was good to see their dynamic when there was no impending doom.
Yeah, intensity happening around them.
Yeah, you can see that why they would be friends, because TaeSang is kind of amused by JunTaek, and JunTaek appreciates the fact that TaeSang doesn't need his money.
Yeah, he has his own.
So. Yeah.
So about this, again, this is all simultaneous. About the same time, TaeSang has been brought to a cell, and his cellmates happen to be the comrades that JunTaek was trying to find to get the information about the dynamite. Mm-hmm. And in the cell, one of the men asks TaeSang, he's like, "Why didn't you bribe some people before you came in here? Because now you're stuck."
Grease some palms.
Yeah, like, why didn't you figure this out first? And then they ask if he came with Comrade Kwan, and he's like, "You know what, he has a more noble cause than I do. Right now, I'm just here to try to get one person out because I'm just trying to save my own skin. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm trying to save my business, my livelihood. What he cares about is much bigger.
It's more noble.
And yeah, more noble than what I do." And then looks at them and kind of smirks and is like, "You know, I've been talking too long. It's time for me to go." And they're like, "How?" And he just looks at him and just is like, "I'm TaeSang." Like, what else do you expect from me?
He's like, "Do you really think I got here without greasing someone's palm?"
Right. Yeah, like, you think I didn't plan this out? And so we flash back to him and Officer Soma making their deal. And TaeSang tells him, "All right, I have 3 conditions for this to work. 1, you need to call Miss Nawal and deliver her a message." So we see, the House of Golden Treasure, hear the phone ring. She gets up, answers the phone. We don't know what message it is, though. Mm-hmm. Number 2, he's like, "I need you to remove all of the patrolmen and soldiers away from the prison cells. Obviously, if they're around, he can't get out and do what he needs to do."
Right.
And he goes, "And 3, I need to know where she's at." And he's like, "No, I can't do that. I can't do that." And he's like, "I know, I need to know where ChaeOk is. Like, you need to tell me." And
notice it's ChaeOk and not Myungja.
Yeah, that's not his first concern right now. Mm-hmm. And we're back in the cell, and he pulls out a key and unlocks the door, lets himself out, and relocks it. And
at first, these other guys are like, "Yeah," and then he locks it, and they're like, "Excuse you, what?"
The audacity. And he's just like, "You know what? I'll be back. And
give me 30 minutes. I will be back."
And they're like, "Yeah, we sort of attempted that song and dance not too long ago."
JunTaek, yeah.
And he ends up putting the key in Hyuk's hand and said, "Wait for me. In 30 minutes, I will be back. I promise you need to wait for me."
And he says, "Just trust me."
And these are big.
In this circumstance?
Well, this is a big development for TaeSang in general.
True, yeah.
To be making a promise and to be like, "No, I'll be back in a time frame." And he's made 2 promises in a very short period of time. He's promised ChaeOk that he will find her, And then now he's promising these men, I will be back for you.
And neither of these things are in his best interest.
Yeah.
And that is a big deal for him.
This is a huge character growth moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And
because he could have made a deal for Soma to just get him out.
Oh yeah, never even
would have been simple.
Never even be brought to a cell.
Simple.
What is his Instagram account? Shout him out. I love him. He makes my learning about Korea understandable.
So Kato and ChaeOk are now sitting in his office, and he just straight asks her if she's part of the resistance, but she's like, I'm just looking for my mom. Mm-hmm. This is really all I care about. And then he
gives her a shirt too.
He does give her a shirt, and he asks her if she needs this, and kind of half expects her to be a bit bashful about it, but she just straight switches shirts, and he kind of turns to give her privacy. Again, the intellectuals are in the room.
Right.
The barbarians have gone. But she asks him why he brought the creature from Manwal to GyeongSeong. Mm-hmm. And he says it's out of curiosity and sincere affection for his creation.
As a scientist. Then he asks her, have we met before, as he's certain that he knows her eyes. Well, and he doesn't just ask her, he is in her face.
Oh, he's like an inch from her.
He's just like staring like into her soul almost of like,
yeah.
Have we met before?
And then he asks for the name of her lost mother, which we learn is Choi or SeiShin. And he has this moment of realization that crosses his expression, and he realizes that his successful experiment is in fact her mother.
And he is excited. He gets that excitement and that fascination look on his face again of like,
oh, he's super intrigued. And
what's going to happen?
He's now calculating in his mind what ChaeOk's presence in the hospital means for their research. Mm-hmm. And he is standing at his desk, back turned to her, and returns back to where she's sitting with 2 glasses in his hands, hands her a glass of water, which we can already presume has a najin in it. Mm-hmm. And the empty vial on his desk confirms this fact.
Well, and as he's dumping them in, he's asking her questions about the creature that she has seen. And he's like, did you notice anything about it? Did it seem familiar? She's like, no, I was running for my life. I was trying to not die.
I didn't have time to feel these kinds of
This was not something I cared about.
Yeah.
And so, again, that's just, it's a real creep factor for me.
He's got some sleazeball energy to him.
Oh.
And if you didn't know that it wasn't because he loved his research, you'd think it was because he was trying to get in her pants.
Seduce her?
Yeah, exactly.
He's gross.
He is gross.
Anyway. So TaeSang has made his way to where ChaeOk is and sees through a window that she is being brought back to the cell that she had originally been placed in. And our young soldier, who had picked up her knife, puts it in her hand as he gets her in the cell. Mm-hmm. And she realizes who it is next to her. And they just kind of do this, you barely see it, little nod of okay, we got this. We'll figure something out.
Yep.
I'm on your side.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kato actually orders Haneda's men, nobody touches her without my permission. Mm-hmm. You do not touch her. Understood? And he's, pissed about this fact.
So mad. He, hits the door, and he's,
mm-hmm.
trying to get a rise, and she's like, you're just an inferior soldier boy.
Well, she's taunting him. She wants him in there because she's got her weapon now.
Yeah, and he is, because all the men around him.
She's hoping.
Yeah, the men behind him are just, they start snickering because they're like, dude.
She got your balls in a vice grip.
And you can't do anything about it because you were told no.
And then he reminds them who's in charge. And they're like, oh, yeah, sorry. Yes.
My bad. Another soldier walks in and tells them that Officer Asano is looking for them, and they all leave the room, and they are heading in the same direction where TaeSang happens to be, just chilling.
Lurking.
And he panics and dives behind like this rack of coats and
uniforms.
There was a panic moment there for me when I was like, oh no, he literally just got out.
I know. Would you guys stop getting caught?
Knock it off already.
Where's your plot armor? It's right here, actually. He does a little pull up on the air vent because they do look through it. Like, they do look through the coats, and at first you're like, ah, crap. But then he's just, you know, like he's koalaing up there on the
hold on
on the vent. Which, how did he get up there so quietly?
I don't know, because the thought of that just like
adrenaline does some things too.
Adrenaline does a lot of things. Like, makes you
so
forget you're
Korean
injured.
Barbecue. Okay. So JunTaek's father has provided director Ichiro with a briefcase of cash in hopes of swaying him, but he states to his assistant that he is a fickle man and he's prone to swaying his position, so they should really start to plan for a contingency in case this goes south. Which at this point, Nawal approaches from across the road and asks that they would allow House of Golden Treasure to handle this plan.
And to work together.
Mm-hmm. So, ChaeOk is sitting in her cell in the lab and notices some writing in the corner. And she moves a little bit closer and reads, etched in blood, "I miss you, ChaeOk, my dear daughter." Oh. And when I tell you, that stabbed me right in the gut.
It was horrible.
I cried so hard watching this scene.
It was...
Thinking about her...
Search.
Realizing that her mother was within, like, grasp of what she was trying... anyway. And then, from the mother's standpoint, thinking these are her final moments.
I'm thinking of my child.
I'm thinking of my baby at home, hoping that she's safe and nowhere near this, when in reality she's in the
same cell,
the literal same spot as you. It was so sad.
Well, and she just sits there weeping because she's realized I found the closest thing I've found for the past 10 years. This is the closest we've ever been.
Yeah, and you don't know if it's like joy or
grief almost.
Grief or fear, you know, just thinking of the hardships that her mother would have had to have endured after seeing what's happening here.
Well, to be in a separate cell completely. Like, this isn't even like where all the prisoners are. This is a different cell, so you know something has gone on.
Yeah, she's in the lab.
Yeah.
I mean, that's never a good sign.
Well, and then there's the
two guards.
Yeah, they're in the same room.
They're chilling,
just guarding, and then like
watching ChaeOk. Yeah,
their exchange is kind of funny because it's
relatable.
Just like, how much time do we have left?
I'm starving.
Oh, it looks like we have about an hour. Like that
would
like
be us.
The most. Yes, like that is like the most
relatable.
Almost done with work, praying that time goes faster moment, because that's what it is for them. This is just the job. They're on guard duty, and then we get to go and have a drink, have a smoke, whatever it is.
Yep.
And they're just like, oh, can this just be done? And
it's almost like their prayer is answered.
Yeah, something
just tumbles onto the floor.
Yeah. And one of the guards goes over and he picks it up and he goes, this is a caramel. Like, why would anyone throw something so precious? And so they're both just kind of like, wait, what? And then another one gets thrown in. And they're like, what is happening? And they're like crouched on the floor of like, what is going on? And TaeSang bursts in and just kicks the one guy in the face, just like, boom.
That sucks. I mean, honestly.
Bye, dude.
Talk about a cheap shot.
Hey, you know what? That's the best way to do it, though. They're distracted. There's two of them.
2-1, and you're murderers, so sorry.
So he takes both of them out, and...
I hope it's a soft caramel, because he doesn't have any front teeth anymore.
True. Poor guy.
I don't feel that bad.
Not really. But he opens the cell where ChaeOk is being held and sees her just
numb,
sobbing, and just like, yeah.
No, she was numb at this point. She was no longer crying. She was just sitting there. That's what
she just had tears just
going,
and it's just like, what am I supposed to do now? And he pulls her out, and so they're standing in the middle of the room now, and she tells him, okay, this is where this ends, because I have found something that's related to my mom. Like, I need to go find something, and, you know, you need to continue with your original plan. I need to go find my mom. And she turns away, and TaeSang grabs her hand and is like, no, we need to get out, and then we can regroup, we can come up with a better plan, and we can come back.
Well, he's begging her.
Yeah, he's like, there's soldiers everywhere. Like, there's other people here that they need to get out. Mm-hmm. We have to do this. We need to find another way. How are you going to defend yourself from the monster? Like, we need to regroup. Right.
And come at this from a different angle.
And this alludes back to the beginning when they're trying to figure out how to get into the hospital, and she's just like, she doesn't wait, and she's like, can you handle it? He doesn't answer within 3 seconds that she was hoping for, and she's like, all right, well, I'm just gonna figure it out myself. And he's like, no, there's some things that you just need to plan for. You can't always be spontaneous with what you want to do.
Well, and she is so blind with hope at this moment. 10 years is a long time.
It is a long time
to wait for something, and to be grasping at straws for a decade, and then suddenly this just slams into your lap. Of course you're going to be like, I don't care anymore.
I have to do it.
I will find this out, or I will die trying. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, and as he's saying all this, she just pulls him and just hugs him and just tells him, he has this look on his face of like, oh no, I've lost this battle already. He's like, nope, this is not going well for me. And she tells him, I'm sorry that we couldn't stay together until the end. And then she turns to walk away again, and he grabs her arm again, and he just goes, do you really have to go? And this, I mean, he's already tried begging, and now he's just trying to, like, maybe speak to something.
It's me, the kicked puppy. Please don't leave.
Please? I'm actually still really injured.
Remember that stab wound you put bleed stop on? Yeah, it's starting to leak again.
But she tells him, it's been 10 years. I've looked everywhere, and now that I know, I have to go to her. And he pulls her into a hug this time and just says, no matter what, just stay alive. And she turns and walks out the door.
This is basically their confession. It's a small but really intense confession to each other that maybe in another lifetime we could have been together.
Right. Like, I care about you so much that even in this moment.
Yeah, but I mean, neither of them are going to say it because that's way too painful. And really, these two, I don't think have ever allowed themselves to ever want anything before.
Right, because
they don't
had to struggle for everything.
Well, they don't come from an era of dreams and hopes and aspirations. They come from an era of survival, and for you to hope for anything beyond the next day is a bit selfish.
Yeah, at that
and
point.
a bit unrealistic. And so this was kind of our K-drama moment, like the romance moment that we've been begging for this whole time.
Hey, it's episode 5. That's pretty impressive.
But I love though that none of this is forced. Like, the chemistry between these two, I think we've even stated that maybe was a bit off. Like, these two had no interest in one another from the get-go. I mean, there was, sure, maybe a little bit of attraction on TaeSang's part.
And fascination of just, like, who is this person?
Sure, she was a girl who could fight and almost beat his butt in an alley. Of course you're going to be intrigued by this. This doesn't happen every day. But for these two to have endured hell together.
In the last day.
And to, I don't know. They're basically sacrificing their lives for each other repeatedly. Of course you're going to have affection for this person.
Right.
TaeSang a little more obviously than ChaeOk. But I don't think that ChaeOk has not been attracted to him. I just think she thinks he's a stupid boy.
Well, there's even that moment from earlier of them fighting over the map, and he's like, no, I need you to get out of this building. like, I'll take care of it. You found Myeonja, like, I need you to get out. And she pulls him, and then they get really close, and they have that moment where she's just like, no, I'm going to keep my promise. Also, did you know you're really annoying and you make me continue to repeat myself? Like, there's just those little moments like that where they're just like, no.
I think that she has been drawn in by the fact that he cares so deeply for her. Mm-hmm. It's hard not to.
And then like watching him switch too from these kids are not a priority to sacrificing his only way out.
Yeah, but the thing that maybe she doesn't realize is that she's the one rubbing off on him. But he has this deep affection for her in a not stalkery way. Yeah. Where boys take note.
Please. But also he respects the fact that she can take care of herself.
Oh yeah.
He's like, because there's so many moments where he's just like, okay.
And has never asked anything of him that she would not be prepared to do herself. Mm-hmm. Which is probably very unusual for him.
Oh, yeah. Especially since he's always had women thrown at him. Mm-hmm. And they all want something from him. But they're not willing to give anything.
Right.
At all. Other than maybe attention. But annoying attention.
Or their body.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Oy.
So JunTaek, busy contemplating his options in the cell, when he eventually just picks up the pen, begins to weep as he is scrawling out the names of his friends on the parchment. Mm-hmm. This was a rough scene.
It sucked because you just watch him like shaking as he's writing too.
Yes. So in his moment of weakness, we have this juxtaposition of TaeSang and ChaeOk showing great courage as they are splitting up to go fulfill their own missions. And we hear a shot ring out. And TaeSang turns toward the sound. Mm-hmm. And then it cuts over to ChaeOk holding Kato at gunpoint, demanding information on her mother.
Right.
And then finally we see TaeSang that sees the cells are empty and the prisoners have not waited for him to return as they promised. And he meets the creature in the hallway on his way to find them and starts to open fire. And then they end.
And they end with Kato just staring at ChaeOk.
That was mean. That was mean.
Oh man, how brutal.
Yeah, okay.
Oy.
That's episode 5.
That is episode 5. That's a lot of information. A lot happens.
This series in and of itself, it's like the other show was a marathon. This one is a full-on sprint to keep up with.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it. I think it's exciting to have the plot move quickly and not be frustrated like I was with the other show of why are we revisiting this over and over and over? We've established it 5 times. Move on.
In the past 2 episodes.
Exactly.
And what is fun about this, what makes it hard, at least for our aspect of like how to talk about it, is so much is happening at the same time. And so you get like 30-second clips
of simultaneous plot points.
And it's very... But that's what keeps you so engaged.
It's good for my ADHD brain, but trying to regurgitate the information, I'm like, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, that happened. But yeah, it's very engaging. Like it's not a boring show.
No.
At all.
And that's a lot. The pacing is a lot of why I kept watching. Mm-hmm. Even when it gets a bit rougher in some certain areas as we move the plot forward. They never linger very long on any one thing.
Because you can't.
No. Not in a condensed format like this. Did you have a character of the hour?
Not in this one, just because there's so much happening. There isn't, at least for me, there's not a particular standout. I mean, there's standout moments, but it's not one person. Like, it's... like TaeSang, I guess, if I had to choose, because he's making so much progress. He's making promises, and he's keeping those promises.
Yeah.
I will be back for you. I will find you. I promise. Goes and finds ChaeOk, gets her out. Same with the prisoners. I will be back for you. Wait. I promise. And he does. He goes back to the cells. Granted, they didn't keep their end of the deal.
Right.
And even when it comes to saying goodbye to ChaeOk so she can go find her mom, like, he's realizing that there's more things that are important for her.
Right.
But there's
if you love someone, let them go.
Yeah, but they're just such small moments that it's not. I mean, they're big moments. But this episode just has so much that's
everyone has
thrown at you.
Everyone save JunTaek has their moments of valor. Mm-hmm. After having just said that, I think I have to say, if you were in a similar situation, it would be hard.
Oh yeah, and you've been injected with something.
To not in that moment just be like, screw it. They may or may not catch these people.
Yeah.
But I want to get out alive.
I don't want to die.
So it's hard to villainize him, but at the same time you're like, dude, you were the one who wanted to come at them. Mm-hmm. And now you're afraid because there's repercussions.
It's not how this works.
Maybe think this through a little bit more next time.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. My character of the hour, probably ChaeOk. Mm-hmm. For the exact opposite reason of why I'm so annoyed with JunTaek, and the fact that she is completely unwavering. Kind of like we talked last time.
Yeah, she's consistent.
Yeah, she is 100% consistent throughout. And her character arc is almost that she needs to back off of that a little bit. And stop to consider her own life once in a while. But it was a good one.
It was a good one. So much happening.
I think I liked this episode more than I liked episode 4. I felt like episode 4 was a super necessary episode, but a little bit more filler-based than this one. Was kind of more action-y.
Right. Episode 4 definitely pushed us to get to have episode 5 where everything can happen.
It was a setup for things to start
progress.
Push down the hill. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
And because it was episode 5, we're already halfway through. Because there's only 10 episodes.
Yeah, and actually, of the first drop, we're more than halfway. Because there were 7 in the first, so. We're doing it. We're trucking right along.
We are. Quickly. And it's such a heavy show to talk about.
It is. Because
of everything that's happening between the gore and the death and the murders and the torture and just...
The information dump.
And so this definitely is a more exhausting show to talk about when we're sitting here just looking at each other for hours.
Before we started this episode, I looked at Ashley and I was like, I don't want to do this.
I'm so tired.
I'm so tired right now. I don't think I have the mental capacity.
You did just fine.
We made it. It's okay. But
it's definitely, I don't know. I'm really, I really liked this episode, though. It was...
Yeah, me too.
Just fun.
Let us know what you guys thought in the comments. We'd love to hear from you if this is the type of show you would like to hear more about, or if there is another type of show, or if you have a specific title you want us to cover in the future. Let us know. We want to hear from you. You can leave a comment on our Instagram. We have YouTube or Spotify.
Apple
Podcasts, any one of those forums, we would be happy to hear from you. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to hear more of this, and we'll catch you next time.
It's time for bed.
It's time for bed. And a snack. Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. We'd love to connect with you on our Instagram at The KDrama Show. For more behind-the-scenes content, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Links are in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us on The KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim, and we'll see you next time.